Welcome to Master's Crafts. For this project, we will be turning my kids' playroom into a computer room. It's going to involve, redoing the entire room. The carpet tiles are going to get torn up. I'm replacing it with vinyl flooring. All the walls are going to get sanded down, remudded, repainted, as well as the ceiling, because whoever did that originally was worse at it than I am, which is pretty bad. We're going to put one solid desk, a countertop with fancy legs that I'm going to build all the way across this wall. That'll be where all the computers go. But unfortunately, first, we're going to have to start with electrical. This room only has one circuit in it, which I put in just to plug the TV in when we turned it into a playroom. But the breaker panel this is fed from is not quite adequate. So let's take a look at that. This is the subpanel that feeds the house. Yes, it does have a cover, but no, the cover won't go on since I failed to put drywall on here. That was a much younger me. I've learned a lot more now, don't worry. So, first step is going to be replacing this subpanel. I have already checked the wiring of the main panel. We'll be able to handle it. I'm going to be putting a much larger 100 amp subpanel in here, which will have plenty of spaces to feed what will be the computer room and power 4 computers. So, let's get to work. Okay, so I turned the power off to this panel in the main breaker. Although, surprisingly, it didn't turn power off to any of the house that's part of the add-on that they installed this for. So, yeah, it looks like they did an add-on in the house, installed a subpanel, but then instead of using the subpanel to power the addition, they decided to jumble up all the wiring. Who knows? You know what? If you're a contractor and you're watching this video and you recognize anything about this house, like as if you built it, pay somebody to kick you in the face with a golf shoe, because you're horrible. Anyways, working with electricity like this, always verify that the power is off, and thoroughly. The trick is doing it with only 2 hands. So, test for voltage across the main lugs. I got nothing there. And then you test from the neutral bar to each breaker. I know this is a little overkill, but better safe than lightly grilled. Alright, and we're good. No power in any of that, so it's safe to start tearing things apart. Of course, for this part, you do have to be careful, because I'm going to have to cut out a big chunk of drywall. But, of course, there's wires behind there, so I want to make sure to not cut any of the wires. So a good way to do it is take your saw, click a multi-tool. Yes, I know a half-round blade is much better for this. This is actually for cutting wood, but I wasn't bright enough to buy the right blade while I was at the store, so I'm using this. But a good way is if you find where the screws are, you know there's a stud there. I think there's another one right here. And cut vertically down along the stud. You're going to be able to feel the difference between the drywall and the wood, so you know to stop there. And then it takes a little bit of extra work, but just cutting across with a knife part way and snapping it out. Then you don't have to worry about cutting into any wires. I know the power's off, but I don't want to have to repull all the wires. So, here we go. I should probably mark a line for this first. good trick for getting a line down a stud. You know the studs are going to be pretty much vertical. So what you can do is, if you can see where it is at the top, take a chalk line, bring it down, and then let it hang and settle. Works as a plumb bob. Now you know that that's perfectly vertical. Once it stops shaking, press the line against the wall. Now I know where I need to cut. It's not absolute precision, but given the width of a 2x4, it's more than what you need. Like I said, hasn't got to be pretty. Some of you may be wondering if you can see that this is an interior wall, yet it's filled with insulation. Well, that's because originally this was an exterior wall. This whole side of the house that I'm working on has been added on later. Unfortunately, it was added on by somebody that had no idea how to do an addition, which is why this is going to take so much work. But anyways, this is now an interior wall. I can just cut this insulation right out of here. It doesn't matter. So. Okay, so got a good section of drywall taken out. Might have to pull a little more, not sure. Since most of these wires are coming in from the top, I'm going to mount the new panel a little bit higher because I don't want the wires to wind up being too short. So, but I've cleaned up my mess a little bit. Bit of advice, always a good idea. In between each step, take a minute and clean up. Trust me, it's worth it. So now it's time to start pulling the panels apart. For that, I'm going to be using my Milwaukee screwdriver. This is not sponsored. I bought this myself. You can get them at Home Depot. I'm just saying because these things are absolutely wonderful. And they have a really cool bit on them that only Milwaukee can make. Is that in focus?
Yeah.
Yep, so this is a flathead with a star bit in the center of it. For electrical connectors, you get the torque of a flathead, but it won't slip out. If you're doing any electrical work, go to Home Depot, spend the money, get one of these. You'll love it. Anyways, let's get to tearing stuff apart. Luckily, all these are... Oh, I forgot what it's called. I guess on Home Depot it's listed as non-metallic cable. Basically, each circuit is in its own jacket, so, and nothing was labeled in the first place, so I don't need to go through and keep things organized. I can just start tearing stuff out. As you can see, I got this old panel removed. Now, I gotta figure out how to get the new panel in place. This may be interesting. Okay, so I'm not displeased with that height. However, this panel is designed to mount from the back. There is a piece of 3/4 inch plywood back there. I'm going to need another one up higher. So that shouldn't be too big a deal. I'm just going to get a strip of it, cut it to width, and probably just use pocket screws. My wife's idea, thank you, dear. To attach it in there, and that should be plenty strong enough. The other issue is that I get wires caught in this panel trying to move it. Can you take that?
Yep.
Thank you. Other issue is I have a 2x4 here. I think they probably only put it in there so they had an easier time mounting the old panel. I highly doubt this is structural, but it's nailed in from either side. Luckily, there's a gap on both sides, so I can simply use my multi-tool with a bimetal bit, and I'm just going to cut them off, pull the 2x4 out. That'll get that out of the way. The final issue is that the electric panel will still sit proud of the finished drywall when I finally get around to finishing this. I'm not going to worry about that. It would be easy enough to trim up some molding to take up that gap, and it'll just make it look a little fancy. So, time to get to it. So, I got some boards cut up. Can fit in here. Got the pocket holes put in them with my Craig jig. Once again, not sponsored. I'm not good enough to get sponsorship yet. Unfortunately, it occurs to me I've got a lot of wires to put in here. So, here's the panel. And if I set it in here, I've got 10 wires already, not including the main line that comes in, that have to go in the panel. Each one has to go into a knockout. I'm also going to have to run some additional circuits out of this panel. But with the panel sticking out this far, that is going to mean I can't use half of the knockouts. And I'm not going to have, so I won't have quite enough room. However, it does occur to me, I don't know if this is going to pick up on camera, but these slots here are for side mounting a panel. So, I have changed my plan. What I'm going to do is also remove that piece of plywood, and that's going to let me mount the panel 3/4 of an inch further back, giving me many more knockouts that sit behind the drywall. So I'll have much more room for wiring. So I don't actually need the boards that I cut. All I'm going to have to do is chop this out. And yeah, so let's get to it. Haha, look at that. Now it'll actually come out flush and I won't need to do the fancy trim around it. Which, I kind of like the fancy trim, but it's a pain in the butt. So all I'm going to have to do is a couple screws into there, and then shim on this side because it's not the exact width, but that shouldn't be any big deal because I should be able to take, well, maybe ½ inch. But either way, I got a wood shop. If you've watched my other video, you've seen it. By the way, go watch my other video if you haven't, please. So now all I got to do is plan out what knockouts I'm going to have. I got 3 wires in this cavity that have to come in through the side. So what I think I'm going to do is take a couple knockouts out for them on the side here, and then I will drill through the knockout and the stud to get it lined up. But there will be enough room in this gap here to get a connector put in, I believe. Oh yeah, plenty of room. Might have difficulty with a screwdriver, but I'll burn that bridge when I get to it. So yeah, this should allow me to use every one of the knockouts on the panel. Should be good. Let's get to it. Okay, simple solution. Put the panel in and planned out where I want wires going through the panel. Just put a little X wherever I'm going to have a wire sticking out of it. And now I know which one's the knockout, and I can do it without it in the wall. A lot easier. Alright, finally, time to mount the panel. Got the main line in, Let's see. White wire is going to be neutral. That goes to this bus. The two hot wires go on either side of the breaker, and then they feed the... Yeah, I forgot what they're called. But, yeah, they feed both of those. And then the ground's over here. So, and it doesn't really matter which side which hot wire goes to, because all these circuits are only going to be running off of one of them anyway. So, all right, so let's see if we can get this thing screwed in and level. I'm just using a piece of composite molding because it's got a straight enough edge on it, just to make sure it lines up with both sides of the drywall. That seems secure to me. Yeah. Now to start trying to get wires into it. Unfortunately, I don't have cable cutters, but I think bolt cutters should probably do the trick. So, got the panel mounted. I got all of the previous wires in the panel. I got the line that feeds from the generator hooked up as well, and the main. So now it's just a matter of going through and getting all these hooked back up, and then I got 4 more wires I got to put in it. Unfortunately, I wasn't bright enough to label the wires and what size breaker they took. There were some 20 amp and some 15 amp. However, a circuit breaker is actually designed to protect the wire itself. The way it works is if you have a smaller gauge wire, it can only handle so many amps. If you try putting more than that through, then the wire is going to heat up, and then that can catch fire. So you can actually figure out which breaker you need to use by just looking at what size the wire is. There's two different gauges of wire in the panel. The thicker ones are going to take the larger breakers. So, that's pretty simple. Luckily, I didn't have any double breakers in this panel. Although, if I did, it would still probably be pretty easy to figure out because usually with those, you just have 4 wires sticking out of one sleeve instead of 3. So, anyways, let's get to work. Okay, well, everything is wired up. It's not the best job I've ever done, but it looks a lot better than the old panel does. What do you say we give it a try? I like to flip things on first with the cover off to make sure I don't see that magical blue smoke. I'm actually listening for things in the house to power up and trying to decipher everything from the noise the cats are making. And my kids. You turned the switch off in the office, didn't you? I did. Okay. Okay. Really hope that wasn't in the video. Well, looks like that worked. So, I haven't got the other 4 circuits in here yet. That's going to be another video because I got to pull 4 more wires. Yeah, it's a doable project. Although, I wouldn't recommend this for the normal homeowner. I have been an alarm technician. I have worked a lot with electricity in the past, and I still get nervous doing this. So unless you've already got some experience and have a pretty decent understanding of this kind of stuff, I wouldn't really recommend it.